What's up, you beautiful people? This is Alex, and today is Monday, which means it's the dawn of a new week. And let us start this new week with a charge of positivity, creativity, and inspiration, thanks to the Creative Matters podcast. For this one episode, I decided to bring in a special guest, AZODi, who is, for those of you who don't know him, pretty much, a guy who went to BIM Music College in Brighton. He founded a band there, and he led that band to play at Wembley Stadium in front of 30,000 people. He was a singer, songwriter, and guitarist for the band. So that's incredible. Now, he also became an EDM producer. He made music for TV, for clients such as BBC Two. And he also scored, indie video games. And one of the video games he scored was an indie game published through Square Enix. That's insane. And now he's starting to compose and produce music for K-pop and J-pop bands. So this guy has a background which is incredibly all-rounded and knows a lot. So I took this chance to pick his brain and ask him questions about his mindset, his path. In this interview, we touch a lot of different subjects, ranging from mindsets to the lessons that AZODi learned on his path. But we also talk about the importance of creating your own style and how to do it effectively in such a way to stand out compared to all the other composers out there. And we also talk about how to face writer's block with very interesting and unconventional ways that surprised me as well, and how to rise in face of failure and the importance of doing so. Because AZODi faced that, both writer's block and failure, many times or throughout the span of his glorious upbringing. We also talk about AZODi's experience with music schools and so many different things that maybe you wouldn't have ever heard about from my experience, because I am a completely different person. So the idea with these interviews was to bring people on board that share different perspectives than mine, so that both I and you can learn something from them. I'm going to leave you with the interview now, and I hope you enjoy it. Chris.
Alex.
This is awkward already. I'm fine. How about you, man?
I'm good. It's not bad. Finished my Christmas shopping, so I'm pretty happy about that. Yeah.
That's great. So everyone, Chris is, one of the first legends I want to interview on this channel. And I'm still new at interviewing. Like, this is my first interview ever. So if this is awkward, I'm sorry. But basically, Chris here, AZODi in art, right? That's your artistic name.
Yeah, producer name is AZODi, and composer is Chris J.
He's, this English guy who's both like a rock star, but also a composer, but also a composer for films, sometimes you said, right? And video games. And
games, film, TV,
TV. And also EDM producer. I think I discovered you on a Final Fantasy group where you posted this EDM remix of Final Fantasy VII. Like, oh, fuck yes, like another composer and stuff. By the way, swearing is allowed. I already did it now. So.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, okay. And you're now into, you're producing K-pop and J-pop, like Asian pop music also, right? So you have this background of you touring, and I saw you also played at Wembley and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Being this rock star. And then you went all the way from there to being a composer and now like producer for K-pop and J-pop. And that's a very interesting, outline, if you will. So I would be interested in hearing about your musical upbringing. Like, can you tell us how all of that came to be, in the sense, like, how did you start making music personally?
Oh, it all started really when my dad brought a piano into the house when I was about 9 years old. And I just liked to play around and dabble with it. My dad used to play it. He had an acoustic guitar, so he used to play Postman Pat in front of me and my brother when we were really young, which was quite exciting. I was just kind of enthralled by it. Didn't come from my mum though, because she's tone deaf. So it's all from my dad's side.
Got it.
But I just learned piano. I started off on piano lessons for a couple of years through school, and then I actually I got into a steel pan group for youth, like children. So I was doing steel pans for about 3 years, entering into competitions with my school group. We did a lot of like festivals and fetes, driving around on a van through towns and Croydon, around South London and that. And then
wait, how old were you?
Sorry?
How old were you at the time?
Oh, like I would have been year 7, so it was from year 7 till year 9. So I imagine, how old are you? I don't know, 11, 12 years old? But the biggest thing about that was we got to play the Royal Albert Hall. So that was a real big accomplishment.
At 11? That's crazy.
Yeah, it was crazy. But you know what? When you're 11 or 12, you don't really understand the gravity of like how big that is. So yeah, I did that, and then I exchanged the steel pans for a guitar, and then I started learning to play punk, all my favorite punk rock songs from like stuff like Green Day, Lagwagon, Newfound Glory. Kerrang TV had just dropped onto digital TV around 2000, 2001.
Yeah,
so it was I just took it from there. Really played guitar, went and studied in Brighton at BIM, and then started the band. And there's a lot of evidence of the bands through YouTube and various online sort of platforms and stuff.
All right. What was the name of the band?
We were called Mimi Sawyer. There's quite a few videos on YouTube if you want to check it out.
Mimi Sawyer, guys, go check it out.
Yeah.
So, like, man, there's lots of things happened, and from the get-go, it's as if you were now set into this life. So for you, like, you were always on the music path ever since you were a kid, right? So it was your motivation when you just started to go and do this thing professionally. That's amazing. I wish I had that as well in my life, because I think like it puts you in a mindset where you just become this musical creature. So for you, like you studied music in school, you said, right?
Yeah, but I sucked, man. Like massive lesson for everyone, right? I failed every single exam and grade at music in every instrument.
Wow.
So I failed music at school. I failed music production at college. And when I finally hit my kind of like 19, 20, and I studied at college at BIM, that's when I got a distinction. But there was a huge transition because the way that they taught people at school music was really an old-fashioned, tedious way of like, like learning to read music, man. I can't read a note of music. Like I never needed it in my entire career.
I'm the same. I'm the same.
Yeah, exactly. There's just these old methods that have been put into schools, whereas BIM was quite a more modern approach to songwriting and commercial writing, which was made way more fascinating and interesting.
It's also more modern, more applicable and everything. Like I'm studying
this situations. Yeah.
Okay, so I guess that was the best experience out of all the the education experiences you had. But was it like going to BIM? Was it amazing only for the knowledge it gave you, or did you get also other value, like meeting people there? Yeah, you started your band there, right?
Yeah, I started my band at BIM.
You met your bandmates there.
No, funnily enough, we were friends from school and we all went to BIM. So BIM didn't actually help that. But BIM, back then, we're talking about 2005 now, 2005, 2006. The lessons that I got were absolutely phenomenal. And I still implement the lessons I learned from BIM every day to this day in songwriting. Not all of them, but quite a few of them still. And there's one thing that you do learn about that, because there were students that were turning up, you'd pay the course fees, people would turn up and they would just bunk lessons and not bother putting in the time or effort.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, they failed, and then they blamed the college for not doing it, for not getting them the desired outcome, but they hadn't actually put in any of the time or effort into working.
Man. That's something I advocate against so strongly. Like sometimes people get into music schools because they want to get rid of the task of actually doing the work on top of what you're taught. And I'm always like, well, why? It's like going to the gym and paying for the membership and then expecting to get a six-pack just because, I tried it once, guys. It doesn't work like that, sadly.
Yeah, and then you hit McDonald's every day after. And then you're dumbfounded why it doesn't work.
Yeah, I'm in. But, creativity in music has always been about doing the thing, doing your job, like practicing.
What about yourself? I mean, did you have any sort of like musical education or upbringing, or did you study at school or anything?
I wish.
Really?
Yeah. I didn't. I started now, I think 6 years ago. Yeah, I was 20. Now I'm 26. 6 years ago, I was like, well, what do I want to do with my life? I've always been doing whatever people wanted me to do, and I was into this information technology path and was starting university as information technology course and everything. I was like, well, this is not what I want to do in my life. I actually want to learn to make music and make music as a living, whatever, for reasons that I'm not going to mention now, or it's going to be an interview of myself. So yeah, I just started it, and thanks to online courses, YouTube tutorials, and spending thousands, not thousands, but hundreds of hours into making music every day, I became a professional. After the first year, BBC One contacted me to use one of my songs on TV.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
One year. That's really good.
That was crazy. I think it was also luck. Maybe they picked the right title, but I picked the right title because the song itself was on this website called Audio Jungle where you can sell your music.
Oh yeah, I've got
and
that,
the title was like Epic Orchestral Battle Team or something. So it's very like, okay, you know, very SEO stuff optimized. So yeah, but that happened. And
but you made your own luck, man. Like the more you work and see the opportunities, the more kind of lucky situations arise, don't they?
Yeah, that's true. So what are the, you know, in going to the BIM music school, right? What would you say is the top thing you learned in terms of mindset, or the top, I don't know, 2 or 3 things you learned? Like surely I think that walking into such a school, you're exposed with, you know, a lot of talent, and then maybe you start to feel like, oh, I don't know jack shit. Because maybe there's guitarists in the school who are 10 times better. I don't know.
Yeah, back then I was in a niche sort of genre. I did notice that everyone I was in songwriting class, and all the songwriters were really into Beatles. They were really into Kate Nash was quite big around then, and like this kind of indie music was really popular, like Kaiser Chiefs. And then on the other end of that, there was a lot of metal that was really popular. And I come in as this like fan of like commercial pop rock, American sounding stuff, like. So I was kind of on my own in that respect. So it kind of helped me to stick out a little bit.
How did you feel though? Like, did
you feel subconscious?
Awesome, or did you feel like, oh, I'm weird?
No, I felt different, but that's fine. But you do feel a bit intimidated because there's a lot of talent. There was a lot of talent in the room. Yeah. But I kind of felt that I was just there to listen, man. I was just there to listen and take down notes and everything my lecturers were saying. And if other people in the class were saying great things, I'd take those notes down as well. So I didn't feel like I had anything to prove. I just kind of there for the experience and just to learn. I was just there to learn at the end of the day.
Yeah, no, that's a good mindset to have. That's a good thing to think about, because so many times it's easy to think, oh, I feel so inferior to everyone, you know?
Oh yeah, definitely. Do never compare yourself to anyone on the internet. That's a solid goal tip.
Oh yeah,
because that will end you.
Yeah, pretty much that happens. Yeah. And also, if you have to compare yourself, then try to do it positively by maybe, you know, having a conversation with the person itself, like I'm doing now with you, by the way. Like I honestly feel like you're much better of a musician than I am, because, for example, like you've been out touring at Wembley. You play guitars, you do so many things. So like you're this powerhouse of talent and creativity. And maybe for you, it's always been like that. Like you said, you started very, very young. So for you, this is all you know. Maybe like how to express yourself that way, right? So
I appreciate that, but I don't think that's entirely true, because I wasn't good all the time. I only started producing at 25, so I didn't even know how to. I didn't even know how to switch on Cubase.
But I don't mean in terms of skill. I mean in terms of like personality. Like you seem to be a very positive person. You seem to have written lots of tracks and to have navigated through many genres of music, really. And you know, for me, I'm similar in the sense that I like to compose in many genres, whatever. But I feel that sometimes I don't have that creative intuition that makes me want to go and create every freaking day and, you know, go after it so much. So when I see that in other people, I'm like, wow, this is awesome. I wish I was like that as well. So that I heavily respect that personally.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask you something about that, by the way.
Sure.
Like, okay, for you, like, sorry, this interview is very like non-organic because we're jumping from one point to another. But what are your top 3 tips to staying creative and positive? Because like you strike me as a positive person. I might be wrong. Maybe you're like moody,
no. I mean, like, I think like
was this like learned behavior? Did you learn to become positive?
I had to, actually. Funnily enough, that was kind of taught through a lot of pain, I guess. Well, you wouldn't be a musician if you didn't experience something.
Can you tell? I think we should talk about that a bit more. That's something I do sometimes in my videos. And it's not like whining. It's just saying all the, 360-degree story.
It wasn't so much a 360. Well, partly like the start of all this sort of optimism was one of those lightning bolt moments you have. And I think I was just kind of like, how do I say it? I was kind of like I was a very pessimistic teenager. Okay. I was just kind of, no one really, I guess as cliche as this sounds, like no one really I didn't really get on with many people. No one really got me
I think it's a common thing for creative people, especially. I think.
Yeah,
like, so it's not cliche. It's just how it is, you know, when you're young.
Yeah, so I just kind of had music to kind of view. It was literally a vice. This sounds very cliche, by the way, but this is just a vice. And and you know what? I had like this moment where I was just like, "Fuck this! I'm so tired of being negative about everything. I'm so tired of being bored. Life is not that bad, really." And I think when I hit BIM at 19, 20, I moved out of my town. I was in this kind of happening city. There was musicians around me. Everyone was eager to do well, and you just kind of feed off that. You know, you just feed off all your friends, everyone in the room. And before I knew it, I was just like pretty optimistic all the time.
That's good.
So yeah, I get back to your original point. I think like 3 tips is do not compare yourself to other people because everyone learns at their own speed. I think it literally, what's that saying? Comparison is the thief of joy. That is completely true. I completely agree with that. I didn't learn this till later on, in my mid to late 20s. 2 other points, right? So do you want it as like a songwriting point, or do you want it as like a general music?
No, man, honestly, whatever you know, like just advice you got or something you were taught out of that experience of going to BIM. But these 2 points already have been quite good, and I think people don't give importance to that enough. And the reason why I'm, you know, before diving into questions about how do you get in video game music, whatever, you know, I started with these things because I think they're more important, because it's like the root of this whole thing. You know, if music career was a plant, you know, the root seed will be the mindset and the state of, like, the mindset you have as a composer, and the people you surround yourself with can have an incredible impact in your, because that's been the same for me. And that's the reason why I created my Discord server, of which you're a part of as well. You're one of the pro composers in the Discord server. And I really think that community can really help thrive. You know, well, if you do it on your own, you feel like no one understands me. Why am I doing this? So it's, you know, it's good to surround yourself with great people. So
definitely, I wouldn't be here without the community online. Without a doubt. Like I've learned so much from Facebook groups, a lot of YouTube channels as well. One really good YouTube channel I've always followed for my mixing is the Pro Audio Files. They're really, really good.
Oh yeah, I love that channel.
Yeah, Matthew Weiss, is it? He's really, really good. Even though it's I learned hip hop and EDM production, all of it applies to composition because you're switching instruments out, but a lot of the techniques are the same, and a lot of the mindset is pretty much identical.
Yeah, that's a good thing. Good advice. Like, tell people people should go and look for tutorials on channels that are not related to their genre, because then they can learn about other things they might not know, and that will really help them. Like, has being a guitarist helped you into composing music for other genres yourself, for example?
No, it hasn't. You think there'd be a crossover? There isn't.
Really?
I mean, it depends. It depends on how hard you hustle. But I found going from a band to a composer, they're completely separate music scenes, and not many people cross over.
Wow.
One thing it did do, though, is it helped me have a bit more of a voice and identity as a composer, because I'd come from a rock background. When I was composing and starting out composition, there was a lot of guitars in my orchestral scores.
Oh, that's good.
So that kind of gave me a bit more of an edge over, say, straight up standard composer. Because that's a big thing, man. Like, as much as it's going to be quite hard to take, but there are, if you want to sound like your favorite composer, I guarantee you, like, half the composer forums composer as you, and they'll probably want to sound exactly the same.
Oh yeah.
Now, there's nothing wrong with taking influences from one composer, but if you really want your own voice, I think the best way is to take influences from a series of different composers, and then you do what you like more of. Yeah. Because no one wants an exact carbon copy, because they could just pay a bit more and get the real deal.
Yeah, that's true. That's something I believe in so much as well. And, you know, it shaped my decisions into my career. And what are your top inspirations, for example? I know you're big on Final Fantasy music.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's it, really. that's the main guy, yeah. Nobuo Uematsu, I guess I'm pronouncing it right, but Nobuo Uematsu.
Yeah.
And I can't. My second favorite is it Masashi
Hamauzu?
Yeah. So he did 13.
Yeah.
But I think I have a favorite over 13, which is World of Final Fantasy soundtrack. Now that soundtrack is absolutely incredible. The game wasn't as popular, but the soundtrack is
good.
one of the best soundtracks I think ever.
Yeah, no, but you know, Final Fantasy is always like, you know, you can always be certain
Consistent.
that if the music was composed for a Final Fantasy game, then it's gonna sound awesome. That's
So
how it
good.
is. Do you feel like what? So what is the reason why? Like the reason why you crossed from being a touring rock star to being a composer? Like what made you do the move?
Like any band, politics. I think, yeah, politics. I also think that,
like maybe you feel more creative now that you're working on your own, probably.
yeah, I'm definitely more creative. I wanted to. I think it's just run its course. I think I was just done with it. I think it's, you know what? It stopped being fun. I think that was part of it. It stopped being fun, and when that dies, then it all kind of crumbles around that, I think.
Yeah, that's true. Like sometimes, and this is very, you know, it's very brave. It's very brave to admit that to yourself, because when that happens, maybe you, like it happened with me at Trader Music as well. And who knows, maybe one day I will resume making Trader Music. I don't know. But it came to a point where it wasn't fun anymore. And I did spend 2 years into working in that field only. So all I did for those 2 years was to make my Trader Music career better. But then I wasn't happy with it anymore. And it took me an entire year to, you know, admit to myself, this is not what I want to do. And it was so hard to admit it, because you're like, I invested so much into this and I will look stupid and feel stupid if I now stop doing it. But
I don't care about that, man. No one cares.
Yeah. And now I'm like, well, why the hell did I even think about those things? You know, and now I quit. It was, you know, a year ago that I said, no, maybe a bit more, where I said, hey guys, I'm going to take a break for a while. And then I never resumed doing it because I started doing other things. And, you know, I don't regret it one bit, but it takes courage to do that. So I think, maybe, I don't know, like being a composer, being a musician, like being an artist in general is one of the most courage-demanding careers out there, in my opinion. But it's also pretty fun. I mean, the touring life must be fun. Can you tell us about the craziest story about your touring days?
I don't think I could say that on camera. But
oh my God.
Yeah, it's pretty horrendous, some of it. Tell you what, if you want to know, just ping me, DM me if you want, and I can or comment. I can.
Where can people DM you? I'm gonna leave some links down below in the video description or whatever.
Yeah, you might get a hint of it. To be honest, if you watch some of the videos, I think we took a few of them down, but there's an awful lot of nudity, a lot of naked guys running around.
Oh my God.
That's what guys like to do, and they're changing.
That's like Blink 182, right?
Yeah, I mean, there was a time when. One time we just ended up, yeah, I don't know. There's loads, man. There's a lot of nudity.
Okay, all right.
We got to play with some cool people. Actually, mad one. We were playing in a small venue in Brighton, and outside, the band we were playing with was like an indie band, and we stepped outside, and the person who was in the audience watching that indie band was McLovin, like the actor McLovin was there in Brighton watching this band.
Wait, my ignorance with actors is incredible. What movie did you do?
Superbad.
Superbad. Okay, I haven't watched that movie. That's why I didn't know that guy.
Okay. He was in Kick-Ass.
Oh, okay. Wow. Nice.
So he was there. I actually got a photo with him on Facebook, which is really crazy.
That's amazing.
But he...
so he knew the band?
That was the most surreal thing, actually, because he's like, well, like A-list celebrity, right, in Hollywood, and down in Brighton watching a small like indie band. That was pretty weird.
Pretty good, though.
It was great. Yeah, it was insane. Yeah, and Wembley, that was an insane experience. That was a crazy story. Just nothing else like it.
How did you feel? Like, how did you feel into, like, you played in front of how many people?
25,000.
Jesus.
It was, the way I describe it is, I don't think there'll be anything else. I think I'd like to experience that again, but I don't think I'll be experiencing anything like that again.
Well, maybe if you become like a super big composer into video game music and you start making concerts like Uematsu.
Maybe it's like
they wouldn't mosh pit in that case, but
no, it was like it was kind of like I don't know. It felt like I can only describe it as it felt like floating, because it was just I've never had that many eyes on me at once, and like it's kind of the power you have in your hands. It was a weird feeling. Like if I was to strum a chord, the amount of power and effect it would have over so many people, it was really bizarre. So like one little, but then
like
again, you didn't
mental control.
you screwed up, you didn't care because you're buzzing so hard. It was worse to just do like an intimate acoustic. It would be way more nerve-wracking, I think.
Okay, got it. Yeah, that's true. But it must be very interesting.
It was crazy.
You reached that highest peak, and you were like, "I'm a legend," and all the girls like, "Oh!"
And then it all fell apart after that. No,
no, then you evolved into now a composer, and so that's at the peak, at the top of that, at the end of that. That's where you decided to start composing for TV and becoming like the multifaceted producer you are now. Was that?
Yeah, I mean, I came out of that, and then, well, a few years after I started the composition, because I learned composition because I was practicing learning how to do band demos for the band, and it kind of moved into that. Yeah, I just wanted to sound like, do some Final Fantasy sounding stuff, and it kind of went from there.
So I saw you also scored a game for Square Enix, like an indie game.
Yeah.
That I want to hear about that. Also, I will ask you maybe in private how you started your band, and because I'm very interested in that right now. Like, cool. I would like to start a band or something.
Yeah.
Just to
what
become.
Would you play?
I think I'd like to be, songwriter and play guitar and piano. The fact is that I'm not great at playing anything right now, so I would just start this band as something that puts me in the pressure of learning even more about these instruments, really. But that's not for today. I'm going to ask you in private. I wanted to ask you about how did it come to be? Like, how did you manage to actually write a soundtrack for a Square Enix game?
All right. So the way I did that, now this is like a really good bit of advice that I wish I'd known earlier. When you go to networking events, you do not go to sell your services. You do not go to sell yourself as a composer. You go to genuinely build relationships with new people.
100% agree.
100%, right? Yeah. Just don't even think about music. Don't even talk about music. You just make the conversation completely about the person or someone else, right? The whole reason I got Square Enix Collective was simply by doing just that. I did not sell anything. I just hung out with people and just genuinely got to know them and showed interest in them.
Yeah.
It all came from this game here. So this is City of the Shroud, and we were showcasing it at an indie event in the UK called EGX Res, and I was doing the soundtrack. Me and the lead developer, we had a stall where people come play the games, and we just hung out and we chatted to people. Now, what happens at these events is that all you developers, you're all kind of in it together, and you end up talking to each other because you're all knackered because you've been standing on your feet for like 10 hours a day.
Yeah.
And you're talking all day, so you've lost your voice. But at the end of the event of each day, there's always some sort of drinks or party going on between all the developers and all the gaming sort of industry.
That's fun.
And what happened over time is that the guy, the lead dev on this project, Keaton, he was actually a translator because he's American, but he would translate Japanese games into English and vice versa for Capcom. And he used to work in Capcom in Osaka, head office in Japan.
Okay, got it.
So he basically he met a bunch of people there over time, and then he introduced me to one of the localization guys who used to be at Capcom but had his game, which was the Square Enix game at EGX, and they're from Barcelona over in Spain. So basically all it has is he introduced me to this guy, Fede, who was making Oh My God Heads, which was the Square Enix Collective game. And you know what? We just hung out, we just drank, we just talked about video games, basically everything apart from music and writing.
Yeah.
And then, a year later, the same event again, still showcasing it. And this time he was like, actually, Chris, I need to talk to you because, we need some music. So that's a year later after me. And that's a year of me not trying to sell myself to him or try and pitch my services to him. And that was it. It was really, sometimes you just can't predict how these things are going to happen. But like a real solid blueprint is just to not be a dick, man. Like, it's just solid advice. Just be a nice person.
Like, bro. Yeah, I always say this to like my students and my followers on YouTube. The ideal thing is to go and offer value, not to go and sell yourself. To go, hey, can you do this for me? Can do whatever? No, just be a nice person. And it's well known that people love to work with their friends. So if you just become friends, and not friends just so that you can get value, like become real friends, become interested in other people. Hey, you're doing this game. Oh, that's freaking amazing, and etc. Something like that, rather than saying, hey, do you want my music on your game? I think that's gonna be way better.
Definitely. That's exactly it.
That's amazing. And I also think it's probably also about your positivity again. I really think that staying positive and being a positive person really helps into getting along with people well, you know, and that can get you jobs. So that's pretty good.
Yeah, it's infectious, man. People vibe off it. When people meet you, they don't know who you are. They just, all they can go off is he good, or are they good? Sorry, and are they a nice person to work with? Are they easy to work with? And do I like them? And that's it really. If you're not as good, but they like you, they're far more willing to give you another chance, or like, be
totally.
Patient, you know,
that's true. That's my only hope.
Yeah, just be nice to everyone.
Yeah. No, but also the thing you said before about developing your own style, that's something I really believe in. And I really believe in like taking inspiration from so many different fields. That really helps a lot. Because if like everyone in the orchestral music sphere almost wants to be either like Hans Zimmer or John Williams. And that's amazing. That's amazing. I love them both.
There's nothing wrong with that.
No, exactly.
Of course.
But I think you start to sound original when you add something else. Like, hey, you know, I love Hans Zimmer, but I also love mariachi music. What if I become mariachi Hans Zimmer? Then it might become interesting. Yeah, but maybe you also like, I don't know, trance music. So it's like Hans Zimmer with mariachi with like this ethereal, you know, pads or whatever of trance. Like just taking inspiration from so many different fields like that can lead you to create a very individual sound. And
definitely.
And then if you learn how to market that sound and spread your music around, then you might get places. So I totally agree with what you said about developing your own style. I'm not sure though that Hans Zimmer mariachi would work, but that was just an example.
It's an interesting, well, it hasn't been done yet, so maybe you could go ahead with it.
Yeah, but I mean, how many mariachi films are there made in a year? That's the thing, you know. Maybe you get to score one every 4 years, but still, it's staying true to your own personality if that's what you want. So in terms of spreading your music, I noticed that a few of your remixes, which are the songs with which I discovered you, like the Final Fantasy VII Bombing Mission. That was very good. And, you know,
thanks.
I love the fact that you wrote this rendition while, you know, transforming the arrangement, but also keeping the melodies and the chord progressions the same, except for like a few twists here and there. Like it's that track. It's not like a strange remix that only uses the melody, but it's like straight up homage to the original. And it sounds pretty good. And I saw it was featured on Game Chops. It's a label for music.
Yeah, I've had a couple on Game Chops. The lead guy, Chris Cutman, super nice guy, really cool. He's really big on community.
That's amazing.
Super nice guy. He's a great mix engineer, mastering. He does mastering as well. I think I got in touch with him actually I was part of another net label called Tiny Waves. Under my producer side, which is AZODi. And I got a track launched with Tiny Waves at the start of 2017. And what I did was I did a mashup of 19 pop songs in one song. And not only did I do that, but I wrote the song and then I created the video with the launch pad, which is Novation. So I did it all live and triggered all of the samples. But you can check the video again on the YouTube.
I think I saw it before hopping on this call. It was pretty amazing.
Thanks, man. So that sound is kind of I seem to be going to that sound. Even with that Final Fantasy VII Bombing Mission, there's still a bit of that sound in that 90. Basically, if you listen to a bit of it, you'll start to hear it. But yeah, that's how I got in touch with Game Chops. I had some stuff with Tiny Waves, and then kind of because it's such a small scene, and I was doing a lot of I was doing a lot of podcasts with other composers and producers in that kind of scene. And so I was kind of just giving back to the community and providing value for people, and was not expecting anything, just to provide people a platform to voice their opinion and have a talk about what they've been up to.
Got it.
And it kind of moved into that, and got chatting to Chris. He ended up taking I did an Eris remix for Valentine's Day last year, and the Eris theme, or Erith, if we're going to get into that.
I don't know, you know, everyone has its own.
Eris, but I know America is dominating, so we say Erith because, it's a much bigger place, right?
Erith from Final Fantasy VII, for those who don't know, because some of my fans, believe it or not, have never played Final Fantasy.
Oh,
I still have to find. I'm trying. I've been making YouTube videos for 2 years. It's the best game in the world for you.
Yeah,
I've been making YouTube videos for 2 years. My real goal is to convert people to Final Fantasy. I haven't found the no, just kidding. But in 2
That's
years,
a good vision. That's a
yeah,
good
I
vision.
know. But in 2 years, I haven't found the right way to explain why Final Fantasy is the best game ever made. Because people ask me, they see my covers and like, why Final Fantasy all the time? Like, you don't understand.
It ticks so many boxes. It does it all very well. And
Yeah.
I played it recently, and you know, when you play it when you're older, you're worried that it's not going to be as good.
Mm-hmm.
It's just as good. It's just as good as I remember it.
Which one is your favorite?
Sorry?
Which one is your favorite of them all?
A 7.
7.
7. Actually, 7's my favorite, but my most played of all time is Final Fantasy 14. But that's like an MMO.
You play 14 as well?
Yeah.
Oh man, what server?
They're going to merge the servers anyway, aren't they? Soon. But it was Chaos. I can't remember. I've got 2. I've got Riddle, which is actually Japanese server. Long story. And the other one, they recently moved it. I was on like I can't remember. I have to have a look.
Oh yeah, you moved, sir. Okay. So speaking of Japanese, we're going all over the place here, but you know, this is also the first conversation we have, and there's so many things I wanted to talk about. So sorry, everyone who's listening, and sorry, Chris, if I'm like, Anyway, speaking about Japan,
you do it in the edit, man. You saw it in the edit.
I don't know if I'll do the. I'm very like it's very taxing to make videos for me, so that's you know I don't often have the time to edit it so much. But about Japan, I wanted to say so. You know, you did Rockstar, you were popstar, rockstar. Then you became an EDM producer. For me, you're a rockstar, man. You played at Wembley. That's
Thanks.
what you are. You cannot escape that. And then you moved now to K-pop, J-pop, and tell us a bit about that. Like, what is your ultimate sound you're going for? Because it seems like you're going on many different directions, but are you building?
Yeah, so I could probably elaborate a little bit on that. And so this is kind of a technique I would like to tell people, because I wish I'd known this when I was 18. But this will literally shave about 5-6 years off the whole process.
We should have started the video with this one, actually.
Yeah, well, yeah, basically, you just got to focus on one thing. And this is why it took me so long. I guarantee you, it's going to save you years of time if you just focus on one thing, do it really well. We're in a world full of generalists and people who are like jack of all trades. And what happens is you end up becoming okay at a bunch of things, but you're not absolutely incredible go-to person in that one sound. Yeah. This is exactly why like Hans Zimmer's doing so well, John Williams, because they know that one thing and they do it really, really well. And I think that's something that I found really difficult, because you can do everything and you want to do a bit of everything and it's awesome. Yeah. But what happens is you just don't
specialize.
You're not the go-to guy. And this is what's going to differentiate you from being able to charge, I know, £300-400 a song all the way up to 10 grand a song, because you are the go-to guy. There's no one else who can do what you do in that one thing.
That's great advice, man.
That saves you literally years. That's going to save you years if you can do that. Yeah. And this is, so back to your point with the J and K-pop, that's what I did. Funnily enough, I put a pause on everything and I focused in on just writing commercial songs for Asia, primarily Korea and Japan. And I did the one song in, I think, May, and by 3-4 months with that one focus, I signed a publishing deal for 2 years with a Korean Japanese publisher.
Man, that's amazing.
And that was because I focused on one thing, and I can't stress that enough. And that's just on music. That's just like anything
in life.
Yeah.
Wow, man,
it's insane. I couldn't believe how fast that worked. So.
Yeah, I guess it's like, it feels, you know, I think that with music, with artistry, it feels very scary, kind of, you know, as to embark on that path, because, you know, the higher you climb, the higher the fall is going to be. And then if you specialize on one thing, then some people, or, you know, it's very natural to say, hey, maybe I'm missing out on so many other things. Like, there's this fear of missing out, this FOMO coming out.
FOMO, yeah.
That makes you feel like, oh, I actually should not specialize. But I think, as you said, that if you try to do all things, you're not special on anything, and then you lose because you don't get the best value and you don't give the best value that you could give. So I highly, you know, agree with what you said there. But
yeah, like, I think it doesn't, like, for me, like, in networking scenarios, I'd be like, hey, I'm a composer, but I compose film. Oh, and I do a bit of game. Oh, and a bit of do TV. Oh, and I'm also a songwriter, and I do pop band stuff and do pop stuff. And before you know it, it's really hard to actually tell people what you do anymore.
Yeah, it's true.
And it's it's like this blurry sort of mess, and you can't just go, I do this and I do it very well.
Yeah, it's true. So, yeah, that's true. Yeah. So I think that takes though, you know, again, very like lots of courage because of the fear of failure. Like I think that many people don't even start making music because they are afraid of failing. Maybe like,
this is cliche as anything, man, but you cannot succeed without failing. Like, there's no success without failure.
What is your relationship with failure? Like, did you have many failures yourself?
All the time. I failed like so much, like a fucking train wreck.
It's so. I mean, it's so bad to hear it, but also so freaking good because I'm the same. I'm literally the same.
What happens? You end up becoming resilient. It's like. Yeah. You know, like I know, like you tough. It's weird, like it's like a mental toughening up. Like you get used to it, and before you know it, you fail, and then you forget about it within 10 minutes, and you move on and you carry on again.
Yeah, so I think like what if you had a message to say to people who are afraid of failure would be that, like, just don't be afraid. But you know, it's one thing I can say as well, like, just don't be afraid. And like, oh, thank you, Alex. You know, but
I don't. Yeah, I think you need a bit of fear, because if you don't have fear, it's not going to motivate you to keep moving. So you do need a little bit of fear in the back of your mind. But at the same time, you do have to fail, like monumentally fail. Like you do have to keep doing it. Excuse me, because you just can't progress without failing, because you don't learn from winning, do you? You learn from the failure. So you're not going to learn enough to be at that sort of higher level.
Yeah.
You know. The worst failure I ever had, I had a few, man, but one that really stuck with me, it hit me when I was 22, and it was in the band, and the band was in like an all-time high. We'd just done Wembley. We'd managed to get some great management. We had a tour manager in place. We had these music videos coming out. We're on TV. And all of a sudden, due to certain politics and certain things being said that was out, you know, that wasn't really, basically what happened is, it ended up with a manager in New York yelling down the phone to me, going, "You're a fucking failure. You think you're the fucking shit. You're not going to get fucking anywhere.
Oh my
Fuck
God."
You." I had that yelling at me on the phone and hung up on me, right? Yeah. And then after that point, a lot of stuff started crumbling away. So everything that I built up over the last few years had just been completely smashed.
Oh my God, that's very heavy.
Weeks. It was, and that was like, if I was going to be rock bottom and quit on music, it would have been at that point.
You didn't quit. You didn't quit.
No, I didn't quit. You pick yourself up, and I remember not getting over that for about a few months, because I'd never been talked to like that before by a person. And I was 22, and this guy must have been in his mid-30s yelling at someone.
Yeah, that's very intimidating, especially when you're at the peak of success like that. You're like, oh, I've made it, and then nope. You know? No,
it was a hard crash. But what do? You pick yourself up. You go through it again.
And you're doing fine now. It seems like. Are you happier now about your career than you've been before?
Yeah, of course, definitely. It's way more like it's more stable. That's a good point.
And I guess it's also more of what you want to really do.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's not to say that I'm never going to do a band again, or never think about. I mean, I still got this like beast over here, waiting to be used again. But it's kind of it's just like any options available.
Yeah,
you know?
No, man, I'm very proud of you, really. Like, because I know and understand the difficulties of what it takes to take your own path and to reply to failure with rising up, like as that Japanese proverb says, like, fall 7 times, get up 8. You know, that's underappreciated, I think, because we never talk about these things, because it's not cool to say, hey, guys, I failed. But, you know, sometimes I think people need to hear that, especially from people who are doing fine and people who are great, you know, because it shows, oh, it's not only I who face these struggles. Everyone does, you know, and that's very comforting.
That's social media. No, definitely, you're right. And that's social media. It's all about, you do have to express vulnerabilities, because you're not relatable. This is the problem with a lot of brands do, is that they present this perfect, prestige image all the time on social media, and it's just not believable. You're just like, well, where's the real problems? How did you get to this point? Like, it wasn't a smooth path. Whatever. No. You know,
and actually, you can get way more people interested and inspired in you if you show them the whole process. That's what I'm doing with my YouTube channel. I'm just doing it to inspire other people, really. And I see the effects of it, and it's very humbling to see how how you can help people out like that. So I really appreciate it, man. Like, you should make videos like yourself as well. I don't know, vlogs or tutorials, whatever. Why haven't
I've done a few kind of on. I've had a few YouTube attempts, but I haven't really stuck at it because content creation takes forever.
Oh yeah, tell my people so they can be more grateful for.
Content creation is pretty much as much work as writing the compositions and writing the music. Like,
oh yeah,
pretty much it's the same amount of time.
Yeah, it is.
But you can't not have it at the same time. So
yeah, it's true. Well, you know, you can also make interviews like this one. I think lots of people will find this interesting. Maybe we can do another one if they want to see one. Surely, I'd like to hear a bit more about the creation of bands and such subjects. Cool. But I don't know if I asked you all the questions I had listed. Probably not. But I wanted to ask you this. So, first thing, like the easy question. What are your top 3 musical plugins? Like your favorite musical plugins, like top 3?
Right, in the tech stuff. All right, so are we talking sample libraries as well, or just plugins?
No, even sample libraries. Both plugins and sample, like the 3 AZODi
AZODi ones. All right, the most used AZODi ones, quite straightforward. Serum.
I mean, if you want to share it.
Serum, definitely Serum. That replaced Massive for me. So Serum's a big one. I use a lot of keyboard piano stuff from the Giant, which you get free with Complete Ultimate.
It's pretty good.
It's good, but I process the shit out of it. So I take anything that sounds natural from that piano sound, like natural reverb, room, acoustic, all that sort of stuff. I whack it on full velocity, highly compressed, so it's got a real punchy attack.
Oh yeah.
Is so you can hear this technique on my Monster Hunter remix quite a bit, and you'll hear it on. Well, actually, you just listen to the Monster Hunter remix; it's really obvious in that. What I do is I run off the audio stem, so I'm playing chords. Then what I'll do is I'll manually go through each sort of like 16th of chords and cut the
tail of the
sustain and fade and stuff, and just make it almost sound robotic and put all the emphasis on the attack.
Oh.
And then what happens is it sounds robotic and it sounds kind of like shit on its own. But if you blend it with other chords, it sounds like it's got this really cool bright punch.
Wow.
And it has this cool kind of like contemporary piano sound to it.
That's a great tip.
So that's one of my kind of signature things I do.
Man, you just give it away like that for free, man.
Yeah, cool. I've got loads of tips. I've got loads of techniques if you need techniques.
Thank you very much. Well, that's why I say you should make tutorials. But yeah.
Yeah, I guess so. So that one, so Serum, the Giant, and the third one,
what is it? Well, if it's a secret, don't share it. Like,
it's not a secret. It's I'll tell you what. If we're going to go orchestral, I use Spitfire Albion strings, but I always layer about 3 stacks of strings. I never have one on its own. And then what I'll do is, what you can do with the Albion Spitfire is have different mic positions. So I'll have one of each, maybe less room because it's harder to manage later on post. And just blend the 3 together. And it's all I rarely have one track on its own. There's always at least a double or a triple, and blend loads of tones together. And I'll blend a lot of contemporary stuff, like for example, with a guitar, if it's a long solo guitar melody, I always stick French horn under it because it sounds really nice. Because French horn gives that
I never thought about that layering.
Their body.
That's cool.
Yeah, so that's it. That's why you can always blend loads of different ideas together. And this is when you really shouldn't shun off other genres ever, because you can take something from every genre and make it your own. Even like, I mean, if before I go off on one, this game here is a fantasy JRPG. But I took influences when I was writing that from, it was Moroccan. I had to do it sounding JRPG style. So I used a lot of orchestral instruments, but then a lot of kind of instruments that would have come out of Africa and that continent. But then also using contemporary, I use sidechain compression on a single tremolo string.
Oh, that's interesting.
A very contemporary thing with an orchestral.
So you're blending like 3 different worlds.
Yeah, completely, man. It's just and funny enough, I was bored of using the same chord rhythm.
Yeah.
So if anyone knows who Dillinger Escape Plan are a very technical metal band, I took one of the ideas from their songs and put it into the JRPG. So I've actually got the same rhythm as a metal band.
There you go. Like you're taking inspiration from many different sources and creating.
Yeah, just take what you like and just make it your own.
So where can people listen to this soundtrack?
City of the Shrouds is available on Steam, but the soundtrack you can get it from Steam.
Okay.
And yeah.
All right. And yeah, so I think I asked you all the questions. Or rather, you know, some things I asked you in other ways. But I think I didn't ask you this one.
All right, go for it.
So,
what's this?
No. It's a very simple question. But I'm like you look very creative again, and also very young. You know, you're older than me, but you look way younger than me for some reason. Maybe I'm doing something wrong. I don't know. But you strike me as a very vibrant person.
Water.
So,
oh, sorry.
So that's okay. That's the reply. I was going to ask you what are your top 3 tips for staying creative and energetic. So water being one. Okay. Do you also like work out and stuff?
Yeah, I do a bit of working out. I do a bit of meditation every day.
Oh, that's huge.
Yeah, meditation is good for clearing your mind and being very focused. Creative every day. All right, so I've actually got a video on how to beat writer's block, which probably answers a lot of these.
Please. Oh, yeah. Then I'm gonna leave it down the description. But if you can, you know, share bullet points.
The biggest one I find with writer's block is that, okay, this is a good tip, right? So your creativity is in cycles, okay? So you'll normally get about, a 2-3 month cycle of being top of your game, and then you're going to crash and you're going to go flat. Now, what you need to do is recognize this in your mind. So when you're at the top and you're producing so much music, you need to be ready for the crash. And then when you're on the crash, you need to be ready for the top bit, because it's basically you're going to get writer's block again and again and again. And when you need to recognize it and be ready for it. So the way I get out writer's block is to be ready for it before it happens. And the way I do that is to listen to as much new music as possible to get me excited. And then you think of like different ideas from all this stuff, like what I was saying with this track.
Oh, that's interesting, man. I never thought about this like cycle thing.
Yeah, you will always get writer's block, but you have to be ready for it. So when you're at the top of the game, you recognize you're at the top of the game and get ready for the crash. Plus, it stops you like freaking out and going, shit, I've lost everything. Because I know that feeling better than anyone.
Yeah, and
it's okay because you will get out of it. You will crash. It's just like peaks and troughs.
Wow, so this is the AZODi tactic against writer's block.
Yeah.
Does it have a name? You should name this.
Writers winning.
Writers winning. All right, man. No, that was good. And this talk has been very interesting, full of good advice. And I don't even know how to title this video now because there are so many things to talk about. But
man, focus on the one thing, right?
Yeah. As you said. So, do you have a last message you want to share with the audience?
Yeah. To be honest, if you ever have any questions or problems, just ping me, shoot me a comment.
Where can people find you?
I'm most active probably as AZODi. I'm probably most active on LinkedIn, or if you want to add me on Facebook, that'd be cool.
Okay, all right. Yeah. I'm going to leave the links to join AZODi on Facebook down below in the description. If you're listening on YouTube, if you're listening on Spotify, SoundCloud, just Google AZODi. Well, Chris, this has been a pleasure.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, it was amazing conversation, and I think we'll call it quits here. And guys, if you have questions for AZODi, feel free to ask them down below in the comments. Go join him on his YouTube channel and stuff like that. I'm sure he's gonna reply to your questions about the things we discussed today. And that is all for this interview. I'll see you guys later.
See ya.
Bye bye. Okay, so that was it for the interview, and I hope it was helpful for you. I hope it wasn't too weird. That was the first time I ever interviewed anyone, so, it's a skill, but I'm working on it. And let me know, guys, if you want to see more people interviewed, which people you would like to see interviewed, and what questions you would like me to ask them on this channel for you guys. Also, remember to follow AZODi, link down below to his social media accounts. And if you have questions for him, you can write them down in the comments of this video, or you can ask him directly on his channel. But yeah, let me know what you think about this idea of having guests in our Creative Matters podcast. And also, I think I am going to make a SoundCloud page, a Spotify page soon for the podcast, so you can listen to the audio from there. And when that happens, I'm going to announce it on my YouTube channel or Facebook and stuff. So yeah, stay tuned for that. Follow AZODi and let me know what you thought about this episode. And that's all. See you guys this week with new tutorials. Bye-bye.